I sat at the back of the conference room, my hands clenched tight in my lap. I could feel the tension in my shoulders, but I wasn't about to let it show. Not here. Not in front of everyone. Robert, the boss, was up at the front, talking about fresh ideas and out-of-the-box thinking, going on and on about Julia. Julia, the intern who'd been with the company for 2 months. Julia's innovative approach to our recent campaigns has been nothing short of impressive, Robert said, a proud smile on his face. We're excited to see what she does next. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. I had spent the last year busting my ass. Long hours, weekends, sleepless nights, getting deals with clients worth millions. I had pushed myself beyond what I ever thought was possible to make sure everything ran like clockwork. And now, here was Julia, who had barely learned how to file an email properly, getting Employee of the Month. The worst part? Robert didn't even see it. He barely even acknowledged the campaigns I'd led. All the work I'd done was brushed aside. Instead, he was all about Julia's potential. I had actual results on the board. But that didn't seem to matter. As he handed Julia her shiny plaque and a travel voucher, a generous one no less, my stomach twisted. This should have been mine. That voucher should have been for me. I had earned it. After the meeting, Julia came over to me. She looked awkward, shifting from foot to foot. Hey, I'm really sorry for, the recognition. I didn't ask for it, you know? I didn't even know how to respond. I wasn't angry at her. She didn't know the full picture. She had no clue. It wasn't her fault. Don't worry about it, I said, forcing a smile. But I felt my jaw tightening. As she walked away, I couldn't stop the flood of frustration from hitting me all over again. The hours, the work, the sacrifices. They didn't matter. Not one bit. I picked up my coffee cup, still hot from the barista's machine, and took a long sip. It burned my tongue, but I barely noticed. The bitterness was nothing compared to the sour taste in my chest. You okay? Emily asked, sitting across from me, eyebrows pulled tight in concern. She knew me too well. Yeah, I muttered, setting the cup down, the clink of porcelain sharp in the quiet coffee shop. I'm fine, just a little pissed off. She raised an eyebrow. Pissed off about what? You mean Julia? Or Robert's bullshit? I leaned back in my chair, pressing my palms into the wood. My fingers dug in, but it didn't help with the anger gnawing at my insides. All of it. The whole damn thing. It's like I'm invisible. I've worked my ass off for a year, and she waltzes in, does one good thing, and gets a reward. It's like Robert's trying to prove something with her, and I'm just not part of it anymore, Emily sighed. Her eyes narrowing as she leaned in, arms folded. You know what I think? I think you need to call Robert out, get in his face, tell him how it is. He won't respect you until you do. I shook my head, trying to push back the frustration building again. I don't know if confronting him would even make a difference, Em. He doesn't listen to me now. Why would he start? If anything, he'll just double down and act like he's doing me a favor. I don't want to give him that satisfaction, Emily scowled. Then make him see it. Put it on display. Show him how his precious intern can't handle the job without you doing the heavy lifting. I shook my head again, more slowly this time. It's not about getting revenge. It's about, I don't know, proving something to myself. That I'm more than what he's making me feel like. Emily looked at me, quiet for a moment. Then, like she'd just cracked something open, she said, What if it's not just about you and him? What if there's something else going on with Julia? Something you don't know? That hit me, harder than I expected. What do you mean? Well, she said something the other day about where she's from. Oakwood Hills. Ever heard of it? I paused, trying to remember if I'd ever heard that name. Oakwood Hills. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't place why. Yeah, I said slowly, thinking. She mentioned it a couple of times. Small town, not much going on there, she said. Emily's eyes gleamed like she'd just unearthed some hidden clue. 2 weeks ago, remember that meeting when Robert was rambling about some trip he'd just gotten back from? I swear, he said something about Oakwood Hills. Said he was visiting an old college roommate there. I blinked, suddenly on edge. Was that the same trip he'd taken? The one that had kept him away for a few days, leaving us with zero direction on our biggest campaign? The one where we were scrambling to keep things afloat without his guidance? I pushed the thought away, not sure if I was reading too much into it, but still. Something didn't sit right. Wait, I rubbed my temples. So what are you suggesting? That they're connected? I'm not saying it's some conspiracy, Emily said, leaning forward, but it's worth looking into. Think about it. She shows up, gets a ton of attention right out of the gate, and suddenly she's got Robert's eye. Meanwhile, you, who's been busting her ass for months, get sidelined. Does that feel right to you? I swallowed hard. The sting of truth landing in my gut. She was right. I had been sidelined, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that Julia was always shielded. At meetings, Robert would toss her the easy questions, the ones that could be answered in a sentence or two. He'd pile the tough stuff on me, as if I was the one who had nothing better to do. I noticed how, whenever something remotely challenging came Julia's way, Robert was right there, smoothing things over, taking the heat for her. It wasn't just favoritism, it was protection. I took another sip of coffee, barely tasting it now, my thoughts racing. If Robert's protecting her, it's not because of her ideas. Emily raised an eyebrow. You think it's more than that? I think he sees something in her that has nothing to do with her work, I said. Voice quieter now. Maybe he's just nostalgic. I don't know. But this feels more like a favor than anything else. Emily's expression softened. If that's true, you've got to make a move. You can't keep letting them brush you aside. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of it all pressing down on me. I know. I just don't know how to play this yet. But I'm going to figure it out. And for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of determination. The next week, I started paying closer attention to Julia and Robert. It wasn't hard. Whenever she walked into a room, it was like Robert's eyes followed her every move, like he was keeping her in some kind of protective bubble. Meanwhile, I was getting tossed around like an afterthought. It wasn't just that he was giving her special treatment, it was how he was giving it. One day, Robert asked me to sit in on a meeting to mentor Julia. I didn't hide my frustration, but I bit my tongue, nodded, and went anyway. Julia was sitting at the table with a notebook in front of her, pen poised, eyes wide, ready to soak up whatever Robert told her. I knew exactly what was happening. She was being handed the easy stuff, the fluffy assignments, while I was stuck with the messes. But today, I made a decision. I wasn't going to stand by and let her get all the credit without learning the hard way. Julia, I said, after Robert finished his spiel about the new project, I think you should try handling something more complicated. A real challenge. Her eyes lit up. Like what? I let a small smile slip. We've got a campaign coming up with X brand next month. They're a major client, and their last PR campaign was a mess. There's a lot of potential here, but it's going to be tricky. You're going to have to manage client expectations, media relations, and you'll probably have to handle some crisis communications along the way. It'll test everything you've learned so far. She didn't even hesitate. I'd love to. I'm ready for it. I had to fight the urge to laugh. She had no idea what she was getting herself into, but that was the point. She needed to see what this job was really about. I wasn't going to hold her hand through it. She was going to learn the hard way. For the next few days, I worked closely with her, teaching her the basics of high-level PR strategy, crisis management, and media relations. I could feel my patience wearing thin at times, especially when she couldn't grasp certain concepts. But I reminded myself, this wasn't about her success. This was about setting her up to fail. I made sure to keep a close eye on her work, offering tips, but never doing it for her. She'd send out media pitches that were half-baked, and I'd say, that's not how you write one. Here's how you can make it stronger. Her attempts at client communication were awkward, and I made sure to point out every misstep without giving her an easy out. But in a way, I also started to feel a little sorry for her. She had potential, I could see that. But she was being set up to fail in ways she couldn't yet understand. I knew Robert would keep shielding her as long as he could, but once those easy assignments started piling up, she wouldn't be able to handle the weight. Meanwhile, I was making my own changes. I stopped working weekends. I didn't put in the extra hours anymore, even when Robert sent those late-night emails begging for help. I had done enough for this company. I wanted to see what would happen if I didn't answer the call. I started leaving the office at 5 p.m. sharp, and for the first time in months, I wasn't apologizing for it. It felt good. I wasn't sure if it was a test of the company's reaction or a quiet rebellion, but either way, I wasn't doing the extra work anymore. If Robert wanted to fix things, he was going to have to do it without me. The next day, I left early again. As I walked to my car, I thought about the campaign I was helping Julia with. She was probably already drowning in the details. I wondered if Robert would notice, or if he'd just keep pretending everything was fine. I wasn't going to step in, not this time. Let him figure it out. Let him see what happens when you let someone who's barely qualified take on the tough stuff. I was done saving him. The weeks dragged on, and the difference between my approach and Julia's started to become painfully clear. I'd cut back on my hours, setting hard boundaries, and the campaigns I was managing were still running smoothly. Clients were happy, the media hits were good. I didn't need to stay late anymore, and it felt strange, like I was finally breathing again after holding my breath for too long. Julia, though, was a different story. She was struggling. Every time she'd send over a media pitch, it felt like something was missing, like she hadn't quite figured out how to connect with the journalists, how to sell them on what we were offering. It was clunky, flat. And when it came to crisis communications, God, she was throwing out blanket statements that only made things worse. I could see the panic on her face when things didn't go right. She'd scramble, trying to fix it, but nothing stuck. At first, I had to bite my tongue. I wanted to step in, help her, fix it, but I had a plan. She needed to fail. Robert's precious intern needed to feel the weight of real work. I wasn't going to save her from it. I watched from the sidelines, offering the occasional, "Hey, that pitch could be stronger if you framed it like this." Or, "You might want to reconsider your response to the client's concerns." But I never outright took over. I wasn't her mentor. Not anymore. It didn't take long for Robert to notice. He'd walk by her desk, eyes narrowing at the endless revisions she was sending out, the stress she wore on her face like a second skin. The first signs of frustration crept into his tone when he spoke to her. His patience was thinner with every missed deadline, every small mistake she couldn't cover up. But he never once took her off a project, not even when she was clearly out of her depth. Finally, I got called into his office. My stomach twisted as I walked in. He was sitting behind his desk, rubbing his temples, like he was already worn out. "Lily," Robert said, barely looking up as I sat down. "We need to talk about the campaigns." I didn't flinch. "What about them?" I asked, calm, even though I could feel the tension in my chest. "This isn't working. We're losing ground with some of our biggest clients, and the media isn't responding like it should. I need you to step in and help. Julia's still learning, and I don't think we're giving her enough time to adjust. You're the only one who knows how to fix this." I kept my face neutral. I'd seen this coming a mile away. "Robert, these projects are already way too far along for someone who's still learning. If things aren't clicking for Julia, maybe it's time to get more experienced hands on them." His eyes flicked to mine, desperate, like he knew I was right but didn't want to admit it. "I don't have anyone else with the kind of experience you have, Lily. You know these accounts better than anyone. I'm asking you to step in and help fix the mess, just for a little while. We'll make it worth your while." I bit back the urge to scoff. I could already see where this was going. More hours, more weekends, more of me putting out fires that shouldn't have been mine to put out. I wasn't going back to that. "I'm not sure I can take on more right now," I said, voice steady. "I've got my own work to manage, and I've already set boundaries. If Julia's not ready, then maybe it's time to have a conversation about her workload. I'm not sure stepping in for her is the right solution." Robert's shoulders slumped, as if the weight of it all finally hit him. "Lily, we're in a tough spot. You're the only one who can salvage this. I don't know what else to do." I knew what he wanted. He wanted me to swoop in, fix everything like I always had, and carry the load while Julia learned the ropes. But I wasn't doing it. Not anymore. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the calm in my chest spread out through my body. "Robert, I think you need to let Julia handle this. Let her sink or swim. You can't keep shielding her, and I can't keep picking up the slack. If you want to fix things, you need to start trusting her or find someone who's actually ready for the job." His silence was the loudest thing in the room. I could see the conflict in his eyes, but I didn't give in. I couldn't. Finally, he exhaled, nodding, even though he was clearly frustrated. "Fine. I'll talk to her." but we both knew it wouldn't be the last time we had this conversation. It didn't take long for everything to start falling apart. The projects that should have been straightforward were slipping through the cracks. Deadlines came and went, but nothing got done. I watched the chaos from a distance, and honestly, it was hard to keep a smile off my face. I wasn't working weekends anymore. I wasn't staying late. When Robert called me on a Friday night at 9:30, asking me to help with a last-minute pitch, I didn't even hesitate to hit ignore. The next day, when he emailed me at 11 p.m. about a client request, I didn't bother responding. Let them deal with it. But they couldn't. The more I pulled back, the more it showed. Julia, clearly drowning, started coming to my desk. She'd hover, looking uncertain, asking for advice, but I stayed firm. "You've got this," I'd say, even though I could see she didn't. This is part of the learning curve. I wasn't going to do it for her. Not anymore. Her face would fall, and I'd feel a brief pang of sympathy, but I kept my resolve. I wasn't saving her. If she couldn't handle it now, what would she do when the stakes were higher? This was her moment to figure out her limits, just like it had been mine. And if she failed? Well, that was part of growing up in a job like this. Robert's frustration grew. He started sending more desperate emails, ones that smelled like panic. He'd text me, then call. "Lily, can you take a look at this? We need you to step in, just for a bit. Please." But I didn't take the bait. Every time I ignored him, a little more of that knot inside me loosened. I was done playing the game. Then came the clients. Major clients. One after another, they started calling in, irate. The emails flooded in, the tone more and more urgent with each one. They weren't happy with the PR plans we'd set up, the media outreach we'd promised. They'd seen no results. I knew what was happening. Julia couldn't handle it. Robert wasn't acknowledging it. They were sinking. And I wasn't about to throw myself back into the mess. One afternoon, Robert pulled me aside in the hallway, his face tight, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. He didn't even try to hide the desperation anymore. "Lily, we need you to come back in. The clients are getting pissed. Julia's not cutting it, and I can't handle this by myself. You're the only one who can fix it. Please? Just this once." His words hung in the air, thick with guilt and frustration. I could see it. He was desperate. But I wasn't going to fall for it. I looked him straight in the eyes and shook my head. "Robert, you're going to have to figure this out. I've done my part. You hired her. You've been covering for her. This isn't about me coming back to save the day." His jaw tightened, his hands slipping into his pockets. "Lily, we can't afford to lose these clients. I can't afford to lose them. You know how important this is." "I do know," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But I can't keep stepping in when things go south. You need to make a call. Either Julia gets the support she needs, or someone else comes in to help. I'm not doing it anymore." His frustration broke in that moment, his shoulders sagging as if the weight of the department was too much. "I get it," he muttered, his voice low. "I really do. But we can't keep going like this. I don't know what else to do." I could have said more. Could have lectured him about his role in all of this, about the way he'd been so blinded by favoritism that he couldn't see the cracks forming beneath him. But I didn't. I didn't need to. He knew, and for the first time in a long while, I realized I didn't care if he figured it out or not. "I'm sure you'll figure something out," I said, turning to walk away. His voice trailed after me, softer this time. "Lily, I don't know what I'd do without you." I didn't turn around. "You'll never have to find out." It was a Thursday when I got the call from the Braverman Group. The HR manager, Jenna, had been reaching out to me for months, trying to lure me over with promises of better hours, a real work-life balance, and opportunities to move up. Things I'd been craving for years at my current job. I'd brushed her off before. I wasn't going to just jump ship for a shiny new offer. But this time, when she called, there was something different in her voice. She wasn't pushing hard, she was being patient, giving me space to think. And as much as I hated to admit it, that patience sounded a lot like a lifeline. "Lily, I'm not going to waste your time," she said. "I know you've got a lot going on at your current position, but I want to make you an offer that will change everything. We can give you a higher salary, more flexibility, and the leadership role that your current company just isn't offering. And most importantly, we're a place that values your contributions, We want you to lead, not just execute. Her words stuck with me like a weight in my gut. They weren't just tempting. They were exactly what I'd been looking for. Every word felt like the company I was working for had thrown away, like the things I'd been pushing for years, but was always told were impossible or not yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed with more emails from Robert, more urgent requests. I'd started ignoring him completely, but the call from Braverman made me realize something. I didn't need to do this anymore. A week later, after interviews and several back and forths, Braverman extended an offer I couldn't ignore. The salary was higher, the work-life balance better, and the leadership position? It was a chance to finally stop being the fixer and start running the show. It was everything I'd wanted. I'd made up my mind. It was time to go. But I wasn't going to leave quietly. I'd spent too much of my life at this company, pouring everything into it, only to be treated like I was invisible. It was time Robert understood the cost of his decisions. So, I wrote my resignation letter. I took my time with it, making sure the words were measured, professional, but still clear. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. But I made sure the reason for my departure was loud and clear. I am resigning from my position as PR manager, effective date. While I appreciate the opportunities I've been given at company, I have come to the realization that my efforts and talents have not been fully recognized or valued. The company's priorities have shifted in a direction that does not align with my own professional goals or values, and I feel that my growth here has been stunted by a lack of support and recognition for my work. I wish the company all the best in the future. I looked at the letter for a long time before sending it. It felt good, satisfying even. Robert would get the point. The next day, I handed it to him. He looked at me like I'd just punched him in the gut. His eyes widened as he read the letter, the color draining from his face as he processed what I was saying. He tried to say something, but I cut him off. "I'm not leaving because of one thing, Robert," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I'm leaving because I've given everything to this company, and it's never been enough. I've had enough of being overlooked while you protect your favorites and take advantage of the people who actually do the work. I can't keep doing this." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. The words didn't come. He just looked at me like I was a stranger. "Good luck, Robert," I said, turning to walk away. As I left his office, the weight of it all lifted. There was no more tension in my shoulders, no more stress eating at me. This was the beginning of something new, something better. I spent the rest of the day tying up loose ends, making sure everything was in order. I wasn't about to leave a mess behind. I'd leave with dignity and let the company figure out what it had lost. The next morning, I felt lighter than I had in months. It was time to go. The day after I handed in my resignation, Robert called me into his office. I knew exactly what this was, his last-ditch attempt to stop me from leaving. When I walked in, he was sitting behind his desk, tapping his pen nervously on the edge of the wood. The usual confident posture was gone, replaced by something close to desperation. He motioned for me to sit, and I did. But I didn't lean back in my chair. I sat up straight, arms crossed, ready for whatever he was about to throw at me. "I don't know what to say, Lily," Robert started, his voice tight. This isn't how I saw things going." I thought we were on the same page. I didn't say anything. Just let him stew in his words for a moment. Finally, he glanced up, meeting my eyes. "I've been thinking," he said, more carefully now. "Maybe you're right. I should have given you more recognition. You've been here for years, busting your ass, and maybe I didn't see that. I've been focused on the wrong things. I didn't flinch. I'd heard this before, in different forms. But now, it felt hollow. He wasn't actually seeing me. He was seeing the threat of losing someone who could clean up his mess. "I can give you a raise," he continued, leaning forward, "and a better title. I can make this right. You've earned it, Lily. Just don't leave." I almost laughed. A raise? A better title? That's what he thought would fix this? I shook my head slowly, my tone calm but unwavering. "Robert, this isn't about money or titles. It's about how you run this department. It's about how hard work doesn't matter when you play favorites. You give the easy projects to Julia, but you pile the tough ones on people who've proven themselves time and again. You don't value the people who actually do the work. You value the ones who make you feel good about your decisions." I saw him stiffen, a flicker of guilt flashing in his eyes. but he quickly covered it up with a sigh. I admit I've made mistakes with Julia's assignments. She's not ready for everything I've given her. But Lily, this company, this culture, it's not about one person. It's about what we're all trying to build here. You know that, right? I leaned forward, matching his intensity. Don't do that, Robert. Don't blame this on the company culture. That's just an excuse. You made decisions that favored her, not because she was the best, but because you had a personal connection. You ignored the people who actually kept this place running. And I'm done with that, his face flushed. I could see the gears turning, the realization that I wasn't going to be swayed by anything anymore. He wasn't used to people pushing back this hard. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten, he admitted. Though I knew it was too little, too late. I thought I could fix it, but now it's too late, isn't it? I didn't offer him an answer. I didn't need to. The truth was already clear. I've made my decision, Robert, I said, my voice level but firm. This isn't just about one mistake or one campaign. This is about a pattern that's been going on for months, if not years. And I'm not going to keep sacrificing my time and energy for a company that doesn't see me for what I'm worth. His expression softened for a moment, regret creeping in, but it didn't change anything. I'm sorry, Lily. I didn't know what I had until it was almost gone. I shook my head, standing up. You'll figure it out, Robert. You always do. But it won't be with me. He didn't stop me as I walked out of his office, but the look he gave me, a mixture of frustration and something like shame, lingered in the air long after I'd left. This conversation wasn't going to change anything. Robert would go on, just like he always had, making the same mistakes, protecting the wrong people, pushing away the ones who really mattered. But at least I didn't have to be part of it anymore. And that, finally, felt like freedom. A few weeks after I left, the ripple effect was impossible to ignore. I'd gotten a few texts from former colleagues, a mix of awkward congratulations and hesitant questions. They wanted to know if I was okay, if I regretted it. Some of them sounded like they were asking if they could follow me out the door, but no one quite had the courage to say it. Robert scrambled to fill the gap I'd left, but it was obvious the department was sinking. Without me there to pick up the pieces, things started to unravel. Deadlines were missed. Clients who used to sing our praises started questioning the company's commitment. One of our biggest accounts walked. I heard about it through a friend still at the company. They're calling it the Lily effect, she said, with a kind of bitter laugh. Everything's falling apart without you. I didn't feel sorry for Robert, but I couldn't deny a small part of me felt a bit vindicated. I had worked my ass off for that company, and in the end, I was the one who got left out in the cold. To watch the whole thing crumble without me was strangely satisfying, not because I wanted anyone to suffer, but because it was a reminder that the work I did had value, real value, and they had wasted it. Then there was Julia. She sent me a message on LinkedIn a few weeks after I left. At first I thought it was going to be one of those, "I'm sorry you left" messages, something polite but distant. Instead, she wrote, "Hey Lily, I just wanted to say thank you. You were hard on me, but I learned more from you than I ever expected. I'm a senior account manager now, and I owe a lot of that to the tough lessons you taught me." I get it now. I couldn't help but smile. She'd figured it out. I wasn't trying to make her life miserable, even though that's probably how she saw it at the time. I was just showing her what it meant to work for something real. It didn't matter if she was grateful right now, as long as she understood it later. The message felt like closure. I hadn't expected it, but it hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for. It was validation, in a way I couldn't get from Robert or anyone else at the old company. She'd learned what I was trying to teach her, even if she didn't see it at the time. At Braverman Group, everything was different. The pace was faster, but the work felt more fulfilling. I was in charge of actual campaigns, ones that mattered, not just spinning the same tired stories for clients who didn't care about anything beyond their own image. It wasn't easy, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, I was surrounded by people who respected my time and my contributions. There were no endless last-minute demands. No staying late just because someone didn't want to make a decision. No more waiting around to be seen. At Braverman, my input actually shaped the direction of the work. I was treated like the leader I'd always known I could be. It was exhausting, but it was a good kind of tired. As I settled in, I started to realize just how much I'd undervalued my own time and energy before. All those years spent running myself ragged at my old company, doing things I didn't even care about, for people who didn't care about me. It was like I had been putting a portion of myself in the wrong place, over and over again. In the months since I left, I learned one of the most important lessons of all: boundaries. I never had them before, not really. I'd been the one to stay late, the one to say yes when no one else would. I thought it was what I had to do to prove myself, but now I knew better. I realized that giving everything to a company that wouldn't do the same for me was never the answer. When I thought about it, I realized how much I'd sacrificed: weekends, evenings, time with friends. Because I believed that if I worked hard enough, someone would finally notice. But they didn't. Not the way I needed them to. They only noticed when I walked out the door, and by then, it was too late. The Braver Man group gave me something I hadn't even realized I was missing: respect. And it felt like a breath of fresh air. I didn't have to keep fighting for my place anymore. I had it, and I earned it. The work was just as hard, but now it meant something. As I sat at my desk one afternoon, reviewing a new pitch, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. I wasn't just a cog in the machine anymore. I was the one calling the shots. And for the first time in a long time, I was exactly where I was supposed to be.